Good morning and welcome to today's Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. This morning I'm pleased to have Reverend Zollicoffer of New Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, who will lead us in our invocation, followed by the pledge, which will be brought by Deputy Chief Crumbly. For those who are willing and able, please join us up here for our invocation and pledge. Or join us by standing, for our invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Our eternal Father, we come this morning again thanking you, Lord, for this day that you've given all of us as we assemble here today with the Board of Commissioners to discuss concerns and issues about our county. We pray you give them favor, give them insight and wisdom to go about to make the sound decisions that will be best for this county. We pray your hand of protection over their lives, Lord. And then those who are seeking zoning, we pray, Lord, whatever decision is made, that they would accept whatever decision that is granted and not be hostile or angry because they didn't get their decision made. Oh, Lord, we pray this prayer in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend, for that prayer. It's truly appreciated.
Yeah.
And thank you, DC Crumbly. With that, I'm going to turn things over to our zoning manager, John Peterson, to walk us through today's agenda.
All right. Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, we're going to ask that the applicant stand up and raise their hand so that they can be counted for the record. Then we're going to call to see if there's anyone here opposed to that case. We're going to ask the opposition to please also stand up and raise their hand so they can be counted for the record. After the recognizing of the applicant and any opposition, both parties will be asked to come forward to be sworn in so they can present testimony to the board. It's important to note that each side only gets 10 minutes to state their case and concerns. There's not a rebuttal process, and there's not a process to reserve your time. So convey all your information to the board within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if there's more than one person who wishes to speak on a case, you may want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side only gets 10 minutes, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after the 10-minute presentation period, the board would start to discuss the matter at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more persons to come back to the front for additional comments or questions. And after that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, hold, or continue the matter at hand. Madam Chair and Board, there is one case on today's printed agenda which has been withdrawn without prejudice, and this case will not be heard. It's rezoning case Z36 of 2021, TBR Cobb Parkway LLC. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. Madam Chair and Board, I did get a request last night for another case to be withdrawn without prejudice. This is rezoning case Z47, Streamline Development Partners, LLC. The applicant is present, and the applicant is asking this case be withdrawn without prejudice.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sheffield. Would you like to make a motion for the case to be withdrawn?
Yes, thank you. I make a motion that we withdraw zoning case Z47.
Is there a second?
Without prejudice.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we have anyone here in opposition?
Is there anyone here in opposition to Z47? Thank you.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All right. We'll call the question. Okay. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been either held or continued by the Planning Commission or staff, and this is the following list. First case is rezoning case Z72 of 2020, North Point Ministries Incorporated. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z72 of 2020 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z23 of 2021, 5912 Mapleton Parkway LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z23 of 2021 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z25 of 2021, the Furniture and Mattress Warehouse LP. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So rezoning case Z25 of 2021 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z26 of 2021, Orchards Development LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z26 of 2021 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z27 of 2021, KCG Development LLC. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z27 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z28 of 2021, Presswick Development Company LLC. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z28 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z30 of 2021, Bonaventure Investments LLC and David F. Cooper. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z30 of 2021 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z31 of 2021, Pulte Home Company. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z31 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z33 of 2021, Mpingo Properties LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z33 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z37 of 2021, North Georgia Timber LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z37 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z38 of 2021, Winsong Properties. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z38 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z39 of 2021, Chuck Obuzu. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z39 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z42 of 2021, Scannell Properties, number 475 LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z42 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z43 of 2021, Del Lago Ventures Incorporated. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z43 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z44 of 2021, Winsong Properties. This case was continued by the staff until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z44 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z45 of 2021, B&R Investments and Construction LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z45 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z48 of 2021, Ray Murphy. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So rezoning case Z48 will not be heard today. Rezoning case SLEP3 of 2021, Ray Murphy. This case was continued by the staff, was continued by the Planning Commission until the August 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So SLEP3 of 2021 will not be heard today. Other business, item number 30.
Excuse me, John, just one moment. This is the most I've heard cell phones going off at the beginning of our hearing. If everyone could just please take out your phones and make sure that they're off so we don't continue to have that interruption. It's distracting here and is probably interrupting those who are listening from home. So we'll take a good minute. I don't mind. I just prefer to do this instead of having continual rings during this meeting. I'm checking mine. Okay. All right, thank you, John.
Thank you. Next case that's continued is other business item number 30 of 2021, the Church of the Pentecost USA Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business item number 30 will not be heard today. And last on the printed agenda is other business item number 38 of 2021, 6M Properties LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the August 17th, 2021 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business item number 38 will not be heard today. Madam Chair and Board, there are a few cases that need to be continued by the Board. First case is rezoning case Z22, Orphe Nawal. It's my understanding, Madam Chair and Board, that this case needs a little bit more work regarding stormwater. So the staff would ask you to continue rezoning case Z22 until your August zoning hearing date.
Commissioner Sheffield, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we continue case Z22 to the August Board of Commissioners hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next case is rezoning case Z32, Taylor Morrison of Georgia, LLC. Madam Chair and Board, I understand they need a little bit more time to work on the traffic study and elevations for their houses. So the staff would ask the board to continue rezoning case Z32 until your August zoning hearing date.
Once again, Commissioner Sheffield.
I make a motion that we hold zoning case Z32 to the August Board of Commissioners meeting.
Okay, Commissioner, I would just ask that you modify that
I'm
to
sorry.
continue.
Continued,
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I make a motion, I make a motion that we continue case Z32 to the August BOC hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next case is other business item number 32 of 2021, Walmart. And this case does need to be continued, Madam Chair and Board, because there was a problem with the posting of the sign. So the staff would ask the board to continue other business item number 32 until your August zoning hearing date.
Certainly. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes. First of all, is there anyone here representing Walmart? Okay, then they got the message. Yeah, this needs to be continued because of posting of signs. So I make a motion that we continue OB 32 until the August hearing, zoning hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
And the last one I have, Madam Chair and Board, is other business item number 35, Strategic Development Partners, LLC. They're still going through a process with the Atlanta Regional Commission, Madam Chair and Board, so the staff would ask you to continue other business item number 35 until your August zoning hearing date.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheffield.
I make a motion that we continue OB 35 to the August BOC hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We'll call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you. And I do have a couple announcements to make before we actually start the consent agenda. First one is any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years before a zoning application is filed, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more is made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this requirement is located on the table in the back of this room. And I want to remind applicants, opposition, and any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted to this board after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by the board at their discretion. At this time, Madam Chair, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda for July 20th, 2021. First case on consent is rezoning case Z46, Southeastern Natural Gas Services of Rome Incorporated. Request rezoning from R20 to LI for a special contractor in land lot 22 of the 18th District. The property is located on the west side of Joe Jerkins Boulevard, north of Humphreys Hill Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval of Z46 to the LI zoning district subject to the following conditions. Number one, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Adam Rosen dated June 30th, 2021. And number two, staff comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z46? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z49, Rosalio Rango requests a rezoning from O&I to NRC for a fence company in land lots 60 and 85 of the 17th District. The property is located on the northwest side of Austell Road, southwest of Chamberlain Circle. The Planning Commission recommends approval of Z49 to the NRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number one, site plan dated April 8th, 2021, with the District Commissioner approving minor modifications. Number two, applicant may have up to 2 contractors' vehicles parked in the rear of the property. Number three, no outdoor display of merchandise. Number 4, no outdoor storage on the front or sides of the building. Number 5, any outdoor storage to be in the rear and taken out not more than 400 square feet and be screened from view. And number 6, all department comments are not otherwise in conflict with this recommendation. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z49? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case SLUP 5, Stein Investment Group requests a special land use permit for a climate-controlled self-service storage facility in land lots 335 and 386 of the 16th District. The property is located on the west side of Gordy Parkway, on the north side of Shaliford Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval of SLUP 5, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Garvis L. Sams Jr., dated June 22nd, 2021, with the following changes. Item A, item number 6, modified to reflect the following. The district commissioner shall be the final arbiter and have final approval of the landscape plan. B, item number 11, subset A, revised to read applicant will enter into a development agreement. 2, incorporate East Cobb Civic Association's final recommendations into the applicant's stipulation letter, and to review those stipulations with the district commissioner prior to the next Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to SLUP 5? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
I have some additional comments into the record.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I need to do the motion and then add, motion to approve SLUP 5 and other business 28 together.
Not at this time, because we will have a motion for all of the consent items at once, so you can just let John know the stipulations you want to add.
Okay. Because they're for the same, both cases, I mean.
Okay, would the board prefer that I read all the cases of consent first, and then we'll come back and do all the revisions and
Why don't we-
additions?
Sure, why don't we
Okay.
do that first? and then-
Because those two are connected together.
Okay, certainly.
Okay.
Thank you. You comfortable with that, Commissioner Burrow? For
Yeah.
him to read both SLUP 5 and OB 28? Okay, thank you.
All right. And moving into other business items on the consent agenda. First item is other business item number 28 of 2021, which is to consider amending the site plan for Stein Investment Group regarding rezoning application Z223 of 1988 and rezoning application Z95 of 1990 for property located at the northwest intersection of Shaliford Road and Gordy Parkway in land lots 335 and 386 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, Cobb DOT comments contained in the other business packet. Number 2, fire comments contained in the other business packet. Number 3, site plan and elevations contained in the other business packet, with the district commissioner approving the final plans. Number 4, all other stipulations to remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 28? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business
All
item
right.
number 29 of 2021.
John, will we now have Commissioner Burrow read her stipulations?
Okay.
in? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm, including in SLUP 5 and OB 28, the two stip letters dated June 22nd and July 14th from Mr. Sams, with the following additions or revisions. Number 4, from stip letter of June 22nd, the hours of operation shall be from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. on Sundays. Entry to the building shall be via key card and punch code pad. All activity within strategic locations throughout the facility shall be monitored by strategically positioned video security cameras. Number 6 is going to be revised to, we're keeping all construction vehicles and trucks shall exit the property from Gordy Parkway via a right turn only at the entrance closest to Shaliford Road in accordance with directives from Cobb DOT. And we're adding all construction vehicles and trucks to enter the property from existing Shaliford Road entrance only. And then adding an additional step to the July 14th letter, and let me see what number it will be. Sorry. Number 17. Out parcel to come back to BOC as an other business item for approval of use and site plan with no storage of vehicles, trailers, RVs, cars, jet skis, or boats on existing out parcel. And then adding another step, that final approval of land, to number 6, final approval of landscape to be approved by county arborist and district commissioner with review from the landscape committee. And that would be my additions.
Thank you. Okay. Next case on consent is other business item number 29 of 2021, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for 3D Construction and Renovation Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z74 of 2001. The property is located on the east side of Canton Road and on the north side of Centerview Drive in land lot 299 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, other contracting businesses permitted. Number 2, no outdoor storage. And number 3, all previous stipulations to remain in effect. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 29? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 34 of 2021 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Boxwood at Vinings Homeowners Association regarding rezoning application Z22 of 2016 for property located on the north side of Cooper Lake Drive, west of Atlanta Road in land lot 696 of the 17th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, Cobb DOT comments contained in the other business packet. Number 2, water and sewer comments contained in the other business packet. Number 3, fire department comments contained in the other business packet. And number 4, final location of the gate, subject to district commissioner approval. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 34? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And last item on the consent agenda is other business item number 36 of 2021, which is to consider a reduction of minimum public road frontage for April Ingram from required 75 feet to 0 feet for lots 1 and 2. The property is located off a private easement on the south side of Pebblebrook Road in land lot 466 of the 17th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, Cobb DOT comments contained in the other business packet. Number 2, fire department comments contained in the other business packet. And number 3, lots 1 and 2 to have no public road frontage. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 36? One. We have one person opposed. Madam Chair and Board, so we'll pull that off consent and put it in its regular order.
Thank you.
And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board.
Thank you. Are there any additional cases that commissioners desire to be placed on consent?
No, but I just need to read something.
Okay. John, Commissioner Sheffield would like to read something into the consent agenda.
Yeah. For, where is it? Z46, if I can just include the following stipulations. That there should be no storage of natural gas on the property, and the access driveway to be a fully hardened surface from Joe Jerkins Boulevard to the building.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other changes to consent? With that, I move that we approve the consent agenda as revised. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Those who are here as part of the consent agenda are pleased to leave, except for other business item 36. Would ask that the applicant please stay for that to be added to our regular agenda today.
Okay, first case we're going to hear today is rezoning case C40 of 2021, Brazos Hicks LLC. Request rezoning from R20 to RA5 for a single-family subdivision in land lots 27 and 28 of the 17th district. The property is located on the north side of Concord Road, on the east and west sides of Brazos Drive, and on the east side of Hicks Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z40? Please stand up, raise your hands. We got 3. Okay, let the record show there's 5 people here in opposition to rezoning case Z40 of 2021. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
If you're addressing the board, you need to come in to be sworn in.
We want to make sure it's the right case, if you don't mind.
C40.
C40 involves forest park subdivision.
Sir, this is the property located off Concord and Hicks.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Upon testifying, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear the testimony that you would give before this board will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The applicant, your testimony. Before the applicant starts speaking and those in opposition, there is a 10-minute limit as John has described, and the timer is on the podium when you're speaking. It's 10 minutes in total, so you want to divide up that time.
Just of note, to clarify, were there any additional speakers that wanted to speak but were not sworn in? Okay. All right.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. For the record, my name is David Meyer. I'm the owner of DGM Land Planning Consultants and the designer of our current site plan. Today, I'm representing Brazos Hicks LLC, who's the applicant of this project. As stated by Mr. Peterson, our subject property is located in South Cobb County at Hicks Road and Concord Road, and it's actually the assemblage of several parcels totaling 23.1 acres. Excuse me. Although we do have a pond and a few streams and stream buffers to respect, none of the 23.1 acres contains floodplain. As stated, our petition to rezone the 23.1 acres from its existing R20 classification to the RA5 classification for a community of single-family homes. When you step back and look at this, at the big picture with this area, it's really the convergence of Austell, Mableton, Smyrna, right there with the Silver Comet Trail. So it's a key piece of property for a unique development like this, where they have the connectivity aspect and the open space. One of the first points I wanted to make is that the current Cobb County future land use map shows our property as being classified LDR, low density residential, and that suggests a range of 1 acre, from 1 acre units to the acre, to 2.5 units to the acre. So we're asking for 2.21 with a minimum of 7,000 square foot lot size, and that's well within the range. In fact, it's more toward the middle of the range that's allowed under the LDR. Staff comments have pointed out some of the adjacent subdivisions which are actually equal to or greater than in terms of that density slightly. So what we ask, we feel like it's very comparable, commensurate with what's in the area. As you're aware, staff has made a recommendation to delete our application to R15. And with all due respect to the staff, and I do mean that, Cobb's been excellent to work with, helped me out many, many times, and even on this one, just a very slight disagreement on what density is appropriate and how many units are appropriate. So in directing your attention to the density chart, I have it there, we're looking at three scenarios. R20 is what the property is currently zoned, and it allows 1.75 units to the acre for 40.4 units. Obviously, we don't have a fraction of a unit, but just to carry out the math like that. Under R15, which staff had recommended, it allows up to 2.1 units to the acre, so that would be 48.5 units. Under RA5, even though the category allows up to 5 units to the acre, we're requesting 2.21, which gives us 51 units. Excuse me just a minute. At the end of the day, we're talking about a difference of 2.5 lots. And remember, if the property were to be developed at R15, there is a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet. But in order to create that many lots and make it feasible, there'd virtually be no room left for open space at all. The entire property would need to be disturbed and developed in order to gain that number of units. No open space would be required, and none would be provided in all likelihood. Through our conversations with the HOAs, surrounding neighbors, and members of the Cobb staff and community, we've heard it said loud and clear that character aspect of this community is of great importance, and we agree. An archetypical cookie-cutter standard R15 subdivision on this site would do really nothing to enhance the character of or aesthetic value of the community. My second point is with respect to open space and protected areas. And by the way, no open space is required under RA5, but we're still reaching out to provide 6.52 acres of beautiful passive open space that you might see in an OSC plan. So this is not a swim tennis community. It's an open space community that provides outdoor, private, natural recreation and open space with a pedestrian connection to one of the top trails in the country, the Silver Comet Trail. Our 6.5 acres will also include a fishing pond with a pedestrian trail. Then the balance of the property, or the open space rather, will be forested, only consisting of mulched surface walking trails and a small community pavilion fire pit area for social and neighborhood gatherings, of course available to only people within the subdivision. Simple but nice, that's our concept. And I also wanted to mention that a 10-foot landscape buffer is required under the RA5 category when it's adjacent to more restrictive residential zoning, which would be the case to our east. Somehow in one of the packages that came out that we were wanting to exclude this buffer altogether, and I don't know where that came from, but that's not the case at all. In fact, we're offering to double that buffer from 10 feet to 20 feet to give the residents to the east a little bit more insulation. As you also know, during the Planning Commission meeting, we've agreed to put a fence in the appropriate places along that property line. And I do want to change in the steps. Someone pointed out to me earlier, it says wooden fence. Actually, they wanted and preferred a metal chain link with dark green or black coloring that can do more a blend in with the landscape. They're acceptable to that, and we are too. Let's see here. So it's probably a good point to further address the minimum lot size as it relates to open space. And in promoting OSC, common area space, or in any of these categories, the simple fact is there's no way economically that a developer can agree to give up any significant amount of open space without being able to regain his base density. And the only way to do that is to be able to reduce lot sizes in certain areas. But as a trade-off, you have more open space, you have smaller lots, which are in demand nowadays, and it makes for a much more livable, better community. But it's not necessarily an attempt to go in there for a density grab, and I think we've demonstrated that here. We're right in line with what's appropriate for the area. And by the way, I did do a calculation of our lot sizes. We averaged 10,918 square feet. That's our average size. So that exceeds the minimum of what would be required under R15 OSC. So lastly, in my third point, in delivering this package to the community, we believe that we struck a good balance between quality, affordable housing with an outstanding neighborhood, balancing that with a reasonable risk versus return to the developer of the project. As we in Cobb County move down this path, and I think there's much to indicate that we are, toward livability and connectivity, Cobb County will once again be the envy of the Southeast and Metro Atlanta in terms of being the place to live. I wanted to show a sample of the homes we're building, which would be sample elevations. Okay, I'm sorry. We've turned in earlier some sample renderings of the house, of the products we want to build. What it is, it's 51 homes of traditional modern farmhouse, craftsman in style, to be developed under this category. So we got a nice looking product. We're not coming in with some kind of substandard housing or anything like that. I think you'll all be very pleased with it. So to date, we've held community Zoom meetings that have been attended by many members of the community, and for that, we're greatly appreciative. We even hosted another Zoom meeting just last week between this meeting and the Planning Commission to still gather as much input as we possibly could. So we certainly want to thank you, Commissioner Sheffield, and also your newly appointed member to the Planning Commission, Mr. Michael Hughes. Y'all have been very kind in hearing us out and going above and beyond and listening to us and for advice and everything. We greatly appreciate it. And look forward to working with you in the near future for several more years at least. So we've received all staff comments and made revisions to the stipulator and site plan as needed. We're including sacrificing one lot in order to give up space between 39 and 51, to make those lots wider to 81 and a half feet average. That makes them more suitable to, more commensurate with what's the subdivision line to the east. As you may know, last week, Mrs. Heidi Hunt, who was going to speak in just a minute, has requested 3 more stipulations to be added. We're really fine with all 3 of those in principle, but I did want to make some small comments on each one of them. The first one pertains to sewer access. We're planning on accessing on Hicks Road, going underneath the Silver Comet Trail to the north. At one point, we had looked at going through her property, which is at the end of our cul-de-sac up there near lot 51, if I'm not mistaken. And our engineer has determined the best way is through Hicks Road, so we have no intention whatsoever with going over on her property. She would like for it to be guaranteed that would never happen, and why we think there's a 99.9% chance it will never happen. We can't just refuse to do that and make our property undevelopable in perpetuity. So we would just ask for that we would, if it did come down to going through her property, we would negotiate with her and certainly do everything we can to preserve her property and her neighbor's property.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay, then I will be available for any questions. Thank you for your consideration, and we greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next hear from opposition, again remembering that you have 10 minutes in total to speak.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Heidi Hunt. I live at 720 Gregory Manor Drive. My property abuts the Z40 tract at its northeast corner, nearest the Silver Comet Trail. There is a creek that runs through the Z40 tract onto my property. And Mr. Meyer and my neighbors have had discussions about the concerns that we have with this new subdivision being proposed next to our homes. And I appreciate very much Mr. Meyer's openness, the Zoom meetings, and he's always been he's been available to us for discussion. However, I find that we still have not worked out to my and my neighbor's satisfaction the sewer issues, the sewer placement issues, and also questions about perimeter landscaping are still sort of up in the air. So therefore, I stand in opposition to the Z40 application as it exists right now, with the hope that with future discussion, these issues can all be resolved in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Next person who desires to speak in opposition may please approach. Are there no additional speakers? All right. With that, we'll turn things over to you, Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can have the applicant to return to the point.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just confirm that you do not have the elevations with you, or would your client happen to have a copy of the elevations with him?
I can check on that, and Alan, is that true? We will check on that right now, see if we can get those to you.
Okay, thank you.
They were, my understanding is they were turned in as part of the package, but we'll get those to you.
Right, but for the benefit of everyone
Sure,
here, I'd like for
absolutely.
everyone to see it.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
That's
It's
okay.
okay.
CP, do we need additional time? Maybe take a couple. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that it's a combination of different style homes. So what are we looking at here?
I may have misspoke. Modern farmhouse is the style that we're coming forward with, which you're seeing in the illustration, and that this is what we're proposing. I'm sorry, you said I said something different earlier? Was that?
I thought it was a combination of farmhouse, traditional, and modern.
No, ma'am, just farmhouse
Okay, so it's
traditional.
all just one style.
I
Okay.
apologize if I misspoke.
No, that's
Farmhouse-
okay.
Farmhouse traditional, correct.
Okay, that's okay. I just wanted clarification
Sure.
on the elevation.
And sorry for the delay on getting these up. I thought I had them on my jump drive.
Okay. In reviewing this site plan, there are several issues that I have with this plan. I also recommend that it is zoned as R15 versus R5. And while I understand there's just a difference of 3 lots from R15 to R5, it is an addition of 11 lots from the original zoning of R20 to R5. Some of the other challenges that I have is the private driveway, I believe, that will access, lots 1 through 6 will have access to a private lot.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, private street.
That is correct. It's private alley, if you will. They all have public road frontage, but the
Right.
access would be from the rear, and it would come in between lots 3 and 4, and it would access all 6 of those lots. So those could be rear-loaded.
So it's just for those 6 lots, those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So my issue with that is that the entire community will bear the burden of maintenance on that street that just 6 lots will have access to.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
for me, I always have an issue with a development that attempts to be creative in making it work. So I'm always cautious when we have to piecemeal items of a development to make it work. So I have an issue with that. The other issue I have is the size of the homes, square footage. 1,500 square feet is awfully small, and it does not fit with the neighboring communities. There was mention of Peacock Park, which is the most recent development right across the street from this proposed development, and the square footage there range from about 2,300 to 2,800 square feet. And 1,500 square feet is just, it's extremely small.
We are agreeable to upping that number. We didn't want to
Right.
start at a super
So-
high number, but we're
Okay.
willing to up that number.
So here is what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask that you guys resubmit a site plan, increase the square footage, and, I'm sorry, submit a site plan with an R15 zoning, and increase the square footage to be a minimum of 2,300 square feet.
Do you all have anything that you would like to add?
Question, but I see Commissioner Gamble has a question also. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sheffield, one of my
questions looking at the site plan, and then also addressing Mrs. Hunt's concerns. First, where is the fence going to go? Is it going to go on the property line, or is it going to go on the buffer line? Because if you look at the site plan, they've got the 20-foot landscape in the 30-foot setback, which only nets out a 10-foot backyard. And we know from history that typically when a landscape is included in a rear setback, homeowners can then go in and take it down, which then takes away the buffering that was promised to the adjacent homeowners. So I was wondering if we could separate that out and then also specify where that fence was going to be, if it was going to be on their lot line or on the property line.
Right, okay. All right. So when you submit the revised plan with the landscape buffer, I need for you all to make sure that the landscaping buffer lines are clear and that it is on the property line of the development. But those are some of the items that you and I can continue to flesh out as we move forward with the revised plan.
Madam Chair? did you
Yes,
have
Commissioner
something to
Burrows,
add?
did you raise your hand? I'll wait until.
Yes, well, with regard to that, the east side is zoned R15, so they have to meet the same setbacks and landscape. The rest of it is all streets.
Right.
So, my only question is, first of all, I do agree with deleting it to R15 and coming back. So is this going to be held to our
Yes.
next meeting?
Yes, it will be.
That to be worked out? Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Richardson? Thank you. Yes, I support this being deleted to R15, not RA5, which is characteristic of the surrounding neighborhoods. I also support the increase in square footage. I do have some questions regarding the private road. If you can help to provide some clarification on how that will work in this development. And also, can you help us understand the two additional lots, Lot 23 and 24, and how those will be accessed?
Would you like for me to address that right now?
Yes, please.
Sure. I guess first with regards to 23 and 24. We're planning on, or we're open to whatever the county suggests or what DOT suggests. I was thinking a shared drive would be preferable to have one curb cut coming into Hicks Road as opposed to two. And you'll notice those are our only lots which are facing that actually have an entrance outside the subdivision. So a shared driveway is fine with us if that's something that DOT suggests and the county suggests. We're open to doing that with no problem.
Okay. And then the private road, if you,
I'm sorry?
may you please address the private road?
Sure. The private drive would come in between lots 3 and 4. It would service lots 1 through 6. 1 through 6, each lot already has public road frontage. In fact, it should have ample distance for fire access from the public road. So this private road is simply for the vehicles, for the owners of those 6 lots and their vehicles to be able to go down this alley to park to the rear of their homes. It's not intended to be equipped for fire access because it's not necessary. They all have public road frontage.
So is it more of a shared driveway?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
exactly. And
All
that
right.
gives us the opportunity to do rear-loaded drives to get a variety in there.
Okay, and then the commissioner's question about maintenance of those driveways, would it be maintained by those 6 property owners or by the
I would think it'd be
entire-
spread out among the subdivision. And it's not something that needs to be repaved once a year or anything like that. But if it's spread out among the HOA, I think that'd be the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, did you make a motion? I know you announced your intent. Okay. Did you have additional question? Commissioner, did you have an additional question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion to delete to R15 and to have the applicant submit a revised site plan to reflect homes that are with a minimum of 2,300 square feet.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I can understand your motion, you're not going to hold this to the next hearing. You're going to actually make a motion for this to move forward today.
No, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I will make a motion that we continue it to next month.
Okay.
To August BOC meeting with
And-
the following requests.
Thank you. And just because we actually heard his presentation, it's just a change of semantics.
Okay.
That we refer to it as holding a case.
Okay.
If they don't provide their presentation, we use the term continuing the case.
Okay.
So if we can just modify
Start
the
from the
motion.
top. Sure.
For that to be held to the next zoning hearing. And then, as you stated, your intent is for them to delete it to R15. But that
Sure.
doesn't need to be a part of your motion.
Okay. I make a motion that we hold case Z40 to the August BOC meeting, and that the applicant submit a revised site plan, and that it's deleted to an R15.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? We'll call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, next case is rezoning case Z41, Century Construction and Technologies Incorporated. Request rezoning from GC to CRC for light automotive repair and online furniture sales in land lot 1301 of the 19th District. The property is located on the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway, east of Pinecrest Road. Is the applicant present? The director of the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z41? Two. Let the record show there's two people here in opposition to rezoning case Z41. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, whole truth, so help you God. Sir, the podium, timer's on the podium. if you will.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear me concerning what we propose to do on the property on 1759 Veterans Memorial Highway. Our original intention was to put an automotive store, but when I had the hearing on the last hearing that we had with the Planning Commission, they recommended that it be denied. So I spoke to the Commissioner Sheffield concerning that, and also I spoke to Robin this morning concerning our intention in terms of being flexible with what we might be able to do with the property. We have another business that is down about a mile from this particular property. We have a retail store over there, and we are flexible in terms of what to move our retail business over on that space if that business is not suitable for that particular property. And so I spoke to her. She was kind enough to return my email and call me back. So I really appreciate that. So that is the intention that we have. We are flexible, with what we can do in the property, because we have already paid for the property, and we got a loan to pay for that property. And so if we don't use it, we still have to pay the loan. And so I'm just trying to appeal to the commission to be able to give us an opportunity if we can do this retail store in that space.
Thank you.
Okay.
If those are all your comments, we'll hear from opposition, and if the commissioner has any additional questions, she'll call you up.
My name is Robin Meyer. I'm the chairman of the Zoning Committee for the Mableton Improvement Coalition, and I'm here today to speak in opposition to this petition for rezoning. We are recommending denial of the rezoning petition primarily because of the saturation of auto-related uses in this corridor. As you know, this section of Veterans Memorial, both in Mableton and Austell, is is glutted with automotive uses, and it makes it difficult for other businesses to find a good location and to grow the kind of business community that we need for our growing residential population. There's also been a lot of uncertainty about the use of this building from the start. We appreciate the fact that Mr. Orrick has been willing to speak with us, but from the beginning, we have been unclear about the use of the warehouse space. I understand that the furniture, online furniture sales mentioned in the staff analysis might be a misunderstanding, but regardless, there's not a provision for truck traffic on this small site. There's been a mismatch between the site plan and the renderings, and there's also been some things missing from the site plan that have made it difficult to fully analyze and understand this operation. There's not a dumpster located on the property, and surely if you're going to have an auto repair shop, you're going to have need of a dumpster. More than half the building is denoted as warehouse space, but there's no truck path here on this property. I know that Mr. Orrick has said that he expects to be shipping out his materials with the UPS and the post office, and they have smaller vehicles. But for the future, Mr. Orrick may not always own this property, and the next business that wishes to use this warehouse may have larger trucks, and again, there's no space for them on this property. If this is a combination auto repair and warehouse, then the auto repair business is going to have consumers coming to that part of the business, and we're going to have warehouse traffic on the same property, and there surely will conflict. There's also a requirement for an impervious surface variance here because there is more paving than the 70% limitation for NRC. These are the two renderings that Mr. Orrick has provided us for the building. I believe the one on the bottom is the one that was the last one that he provided, but as you see, it does not match the site plan. The bay doors on the side would take up some of those parking spaces. Admittedly, he has more parking spaces than would be needed for the planned operation, but again, we're just pretty confused about what this property is about. If indeed the idea is to use it as a retail store, then that to us would be a completely different application. We would ask that this application be denied, and when Mr. Orrick has plans for that operation or for that development, that they could be refiled and we could start anew. So I appreciate your comments here today, and appreciate your listening to my comments here today, and ask that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in opposition desiring to speak? Okay, Commissioner Sheffield? It's up to you. Excuse me.
Have any questions? I'm just going to. Well, I'll have the applicant to come up after all of that. Thank you so much for following up with me or reaching out to me after the PC meeting with respect to your application. And I also thank you for your consideration in selecting District 4 as the location for your new business. During our conversation, you mentioned that your decision was based in part because there are similar automotive shops in the immediate area. However, in an effort to attract different types of businesses to the community, I must place limitations on auto-related establishments, as you heard, and it is also my opinion that auto repair shops have saturated the area, particularly in two main corridors in District 4. Well, actually 3, Austell Road, Mableton Parkway, and Veterans Memorial Highway. I'll share that the current and future residents of District 4 are very desirous of businesses that offer community retail, restaurants, and businesses that complement the current and future development of the community. And unfortunately, this is not that business. So with that, Madam Chair, I make a motion to deny zoning application Z41.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? Commissioner?
I just have a question too. With this being in a NAC, CRC really doesn't fit. So, but he did have part of this as an online furniture sale warehouse. Would that be appropriate for a NAC and just not the auto repair?
And typically, you would see a furniture store there, and, people can go and buy it and take it home. But this is a little bit different because they go and look at it, I guess, and then have it shipped to their house.
Well, and the applicant shared that although we have furniture, he communicated that he will not sell furniture at the property. Instead, it would be storage for restaurant equipment.
Okay. All right.
It's okay.
Commissioner, I can understand your comments with respect to continued automotive uses here. However, I'm under the impression because this is GC, and I believe with the current future land use that there does need to be another zoning beyond GC on the property. That John, if you can help clarify, can the applicant retain the GC?
And the way you summarize it, Madam Chair, is correct. The property is currently general commercial and a NAC, so the zoning and the future land use map don't line up. So he cannot use the property for anything right now. So the board should consider putting it into a constitutional category or holding this and letting him come back with something else. Or maybe if you do deny it without prejudice, we can come back in 6 months. So we need to do something to put it into a constitutional category.
Okay.
Commissioner?
Then I would recommend or suggest that we leave it as GC and he can come back with a different type of business.
Okay. Can we do that by holding this case and then permitting the applicant to talk to you about different uses on the property versus keeping it as GC? Because, and it helped me understand, John, I'm not understanding keeping it as GC and then coming back with a different use versus holding it and having him, having the applicant provide a different use.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea with this one, since this whole concept of changing it to retail is kind of new to me. If the board does decide to hold this case, maybe it should be for 60 days, so he has plenty of time to talk to the community and to the elected official about this. So that would be your September 21st hearing date.
Commissioner, I don't know if you just, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me, John?
Since this whole concept is changing into a retail from an automotive use, there's probably not enough time for him to get together his plans and his architecture and to meet with the neighborhood out there. So instead of holding this for 30 days, maybe the board should hold it for 60 days to give him enough time to meet with the community and yourself to come up with a good plan.
Or John, what about if I denied it without prejudice and held it for 6 months?
Well, if you deny it without prejudice, that takes care of the county's prejudice period, but state law still has a 6-month period of him waiting. Maybe another option to consider is allowing him to withdraw this without prejudice, and then he can submit another one as soon as he wants to. But he would have to ask to be withdrawn without prejudice. Now he can come back when he needs to come back instead of waiting 6 months.
But for me, if we withdraw and he comes back with the same proposal, I'm back in the same position.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's gotten the message that the automotive use is not going to fly. So it's going to come back as some type of retail or restaurant or an office or something like that.
Okay. All right, so, we'll deny without prejudice?
Well, if he deny without prejudice, he can't come back for 6 months.
It's up to the
Well, yeah, we'll just, we'll ask you to withdraw the application
Okay.
without prejudice, and we can connect offline and come up with some other ideas with the community.
He can offer to do that. He can offer to withdraw it, and then it'd be up to y'all whether to accept the withdrawal or not. Or he can elect to go forward. It's up to him
Right,
at this point.
well, yeah, that's what I'm asking him. If
Yeah, now if I withdraw, how long before I can resubmit another application?
Is it a year?
No, if he withdraws it right now and the board accepts it without prejudice, then he can come back as soon as he wants to come back. There's no waiting period.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you get that? There would be no waiting.
That's what I was
period. It's
asking,
just
how long
too much.
before I can come back with another application? How long do I have to wait?
There would be no waiting period.
There will be no waiting period, okay. All right, I'll do that.
Commissioner, I would just ask that any fees be waived because he paid fees for this hearing, and that if we withdraw without prejudice, his intent is still similar to be able to develop his lots. So I would ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we do that, John?
Yes.
Waive, okay. Okay.
Okay, so
So you-
Commissioner.
I just want to make sure, I think we have a motion that's already on the table, and I asked that you need to vote on that or ask to request that motion to be withdrawn, the initial motion.
Right, I request that the initial motion is
Do we
withdrawn.
have a second for that?
Second.
And then,
Any discussion? Well, all right, we'll call the question on that motion. All right, it carries 5-0. Go ahead.
okay, now we have a request by the applicant to withdraw, and then you want to make a new motion related to that?
I make a motion that we withdraw zoning case Z41
That you-
without prejudice,
That you approve the withdrawal without prejudice, yes.
that I approve the withdrawal without prejudice.
And forgive us, yes, we're all learning up here. And we're trying to accommodate the interest of the commissioner and the applicant.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you. And I would just add again, that be conditioned upon him not having to pay rezoning fees when he comes back to file.
You have that, John? Okay.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll call the question.
Thank you.
The motion carries 5-0. Thank you for working
you so
with
much.
us. Thank you. We got through it.
All right, moving into the other business agenda. First item was a held case from last month, and this is to consider a settlement of litigation for Parkland Capital II LLC regarding rezoning case Z23 of 2020. The property is located on the northwest corner of Atlanta Road and Daniel Drive in land lots 421 and 444 of the 17th District. By way of background, the subject property was a rezoning application in September 2020 to rezone from R12 and R20 to GC for convenience store fuel sales. The Board of Commissioners denied the application. The applicant filed a lawsuit challenging this decision. Since the filing of the lawsuit, the applicant has communicated with the county attorney and the district commissioner regarding a potential compromise to the denial decision. The applicant has proposed rezoning the property to RM12 for luxury townhomes. The applicant has submitted a detailed letter of the proposal dated May 14, 2021, which is attached. If approved, all staff comments below should be incorporated into the settlement. At this time, the applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 33? Please stand up and raise your hands. Let the record show there's 7 people here opposed to other business item number 33. At this point, I would ask the people in opposition to please come forward to be sworn in.
The infant didn't raise its hand. a lot better than my presentation. Good morning, Madam Chair. Members of the Board of Commissioners, for the record, my name is Garvis Sams. I'm with the law firm of Sams, Larkin, and Huff here in the city of Marietta, and I represent Park Lane Capital LLC in connection with this. Was originally an application for rezoning that was heard last year and then denied. We filed a challenge to that in the Superior Court and then commenced discussions with the county attorney and of course, in litigation mode, we can't speak directly with the commissioner, but the county attorney was communicating with the district commissioner, Commissioner Burrell. And we were before you last month with the settlement of litigation that you heard in executive session, and the word's not ratified, but you reached a consensus to move it on to your agenda last month, so it was moved on. It was heard, and so then it was held on your motion, and with specific instructions that we meet with the neighbors, and Commissioner Burrell did an excellent job arranging that meeting in the larger conference room upstairs, and I think most of the people that are here today were there, as well as Mr. Thornton Morris, my client, and me. Immediately after that, we revised the site plan, and I know this is a whole case, so we don't need to get into all the minutiae or the history of it unless you just really have a desire to. But the change in what you're seeing now in your monitors is instead of having a full access point off of Daniel Drive, which you see to the south of the property, that is a right-in only. And that will keep any vehicles, residential, commercial, or otherwise, going down Daniel Drive. And of course, there's mechanisms, physical impediments that can be placed in pork chops and whatnot that even SUVs can't jump to place that in a position so it'll just be right in only. The primary point of ingress and egress is on, as you can see, Atlanta Road, where it will enjoy full turning movements. This property has been reduced from 12 to 11 units, which is right at 10 units per acre. This is just at an acre. It's 1.088 acre tract of land. Right now, part of it's zoned RM12, which is what we're asking for. The other part is just a small sliver zoned R20. But the totality of this property is within the confines of a community activity center on the future land use map. So that typically envisions some sort of commercial development. So last year when we brought it forward, it was for a convenience store with ancillary retail and fuel cells. And that was what was defeated. That was what was challenged. And here's where we are. So from a pretty heavy, intense commercial use to a benign use that, but still fits within a community activity center in terms of high-end luxury townhomes. South of the property, there's a former HVAC building that's vacant, I think out of use. It's zoned GC. Everything across Atlanta Road is zoned heavy industrial. Everything to our north is zoned either industrially or it is zoned in multifamily. And then the Daniel Drive residents that are here today live down Daniel Drive, which takes a pretty big dip and turn, but there's even a piece of property between this property and Daniel Drive. And if you look at the handout that I've given you, you can see that there's quite a bit of separation between the two. This, you should be in receipt of my May 14th letter from 2021. The only change is the taking out of one lot, the elimination of full turning movements, and the limitations of turning movements on Daniel Drive. Otherwise, everything in that proposed settlement of litigation remains the same. So we're just simply asking that you approve this. A lot of work has gone into it other than just simply going away and not developing the property. It being in a community activity center, I really don't think there's any other way to develop it, at least in terms of its positioning according to your policy and your intent. So with that being said, it was a whole case. I can get into the totality of the history of it, but I figured you probably have better things to do, and I know you remember it well. But if there's any questions, Madam Chair, I'll be glad to respond to those.
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation. We'll hear from opposition, and then if the commissioner needs to call you back up, she certainly will. For those who are here in opposition, you're free to come speak at this time. Again, remembering you have 10 minutes in total.
Hi there. My name is Elizabeth Hardy. As you know from our last meeting, my sister and I bought our first house on Daniel Drive about this time last year. Since our last meeting, we were able to meet with the property owner in question. This was the first time he'd actually attended any of the zoning meetings. So during this meeting, we were able to express our concerns in hopes of reaching an agreement regarding future plans. As you know from the previous hearing, we were very concerned about the entrance being on our small street for safety reasons. Our other main concern was that they plan to pave the entire 1 acre lot with variances on all sides of the property, which would increase runoff that we already have a problem with in our neighborhood. This is what it looks like on a not so heavy rain. And this is a normal occurrence in our neighborhood. According to the paperwork that was sent over in the information packet, the stormwater management comment says that all stormwater management and water quality components shall be constructed in a manner which connects them to our existing downstream drainage features. So that are these flooded ditches in our front yards. There's relatively, another comment was there is relatively little downstream stormwater infrastructure in place to handle stormwater runoff from the site. So from what we understand is they're going to have an underground storage unit, but that storage unit will drain into our drains. Would that already have a problem? So we did meet with Mr. Carver from the watershed department, and he basically told us that it would be the responsibility of us, if there was a problem, we would have to prove that this was a problem and then come back and sue the county. So basically, it would still be our responsibility, which is very concerning to us. Mr. Garvis showed his new plan. The new plan shows that they reduced 1 unit and changed a little bit of the entrance on our street. I don't really understand why there's now 2 entrances, but the revised plan that he made was on July 13th, and we met with Watershed on the 15th. So that Watershed was not taken into consideration at all for the new plan that they made. So basically, the other thing I got from the meeting is that if they put the entrance on Atlanta Road, they wouldn't consider it a viable project, as in they wouldn't make as much money as they wanted to. And that, I feel like that would be at our expense. So I'll let my neighbors speak now. Thank you. Oh, I
Thank
forgot
you.
to show the other pictures. Sorry. This picture is my neighbor across the street, Mr. Stanley. This is the big tube he had to dig up in his yard and replace so that the water could drain properly. This is the first time that he did this. He actually had to do it. This is my sister on all the trash that she's picked up that comes down through those ditches from the top property where they're talking about building. And this is just an example of kind of something that we want to see continue in our neighborhood. This is a house that was redone, and they're going for a lot more money. Our neighborhood is really making a change right now, and I'd like to see that continue for the best instead of, just kind of throwing some things in there. This one shows basically all the properties touching the property in question are going to be zoned for a single-family home. So that big tract that runs behind Daniel Drive is single-family. The property right next to it is a single-family home that's going to be redone per the applicant. He's the one that told us that information. The city side south of that property has an abandoned commercial building on it, but there are also 3 homes on that property. And then all that stuff behind there is single-family homes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Hi, my name is Bethany Travis. I live on Daniel Drive, not far from where the proposed site is going to be, and again, voicing many of the same concerns that there doesn't seem to be any really valid reason for there to be an entrance point off Daniel Drive. It's somewhat deceiving looking at this picture from above. It looks like there's a lot more room. There is hardly any when you come off Atlanta Road onto Daniel Drive, and certainly not enough to allow even for a right turn in only, and there's no need for it. Daniel Drive has no access to anything but neighborhoods and single-family homes, so for that to be there, which poses a lot of dangers for us with traffic coming in and out unnecessarily. Also the drainage issues, these are older homes, the infrastructure is older, and the worries that, and then to have that all come on us and have to bear the burden of proof that it was from someone else, and all those things just seems a little unfair. And especially since it wasn't included in the supposedly revised site plan. And to be perfectly honest, if we've got to give up this piece of property that makes the entranceway into our neighborhood really a special place anymore, because you come off Atlanta Road and you feel good about coming home, if we've got to give some of that up, then at least I think the property should be more in keeping with what is already there, as was brought out, that it's single-family homes, not townhomes, not industrial. We don't see any of those things. So if we could continue revisions on this plan, especially too regarding landscape buffers, makes it sound like we wouldn't see much, but we would, especially if they reduce them according to the variances that are on the site plan. It's far too small, what they're proposing to do. So if these things could be considered, I'd appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Bernadette Velakis. This is my son, Kieran. We live on Daniel Drive, and I've lived there for 11 years. It really is just a very special neighborhood. We all know each other. We take care of each other. I myself am a runner, and I run on a regular basis down through Daniel Drive out to Atlanta Road, and that particular area where that driveway is going to go is a very treacherous part of our journey, and since Kieran's come, we go on he's in a stroller, so we have to go really, really carefully just around that curve, because traffic, it may not look like much, but traffic screams around there now. And with the thought of having an additional number of vehicles going out or coming in on our street, that worries me greatly. It really takes away from any sort of, value that end of the street may have. And we are single-family homes in that neighborhood, and I would like the land to remain true to what is going on there and welcome the people, if they do have homes on that land, into our neighborhood as well. My concerns are also what have already been expressed with the flooding and and the lack of buffers, and so I appreciate you taking time to listen, and hope that pleas to make our neighborhood remain what it is do not fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ken Daniel. I live on Daniel Drive, 811. We appreciate being able to make some comments on this, and the meetings that we had with Commissioner Burrow and the arrangement that she made with the stormwater management people. However, like when we did speak with stormwater management, what they told us is no plans have been submitted to them, because the applicant is not really the developer. The applicant is shopping the rezoning. So that's what you're approving. You're not actually approving this development or that plan. You're just voting on the rezoning. And then there won't be another public hearing if it turns out selling it to some other developer. I do have some photos here, which I know I don't have a lot of time. I've got more photos than time. But this just shows that is actually the sign for this property's rezoning. And you see the curbing there. So the curbing doesn't even go all the way on the frontage of the property for the application. And past that point, there is no curbing. So when you talk about the existing stormwater infrastructure, it's the yards, the front yards on Daniel Drive. That's the existing stormwater infrastructure. And as I said, no plans have been submitted. You see, where you see just down there, there's a fence and there's another for sale sign. So there's going to be another application coming before you to develop that. And that is 6.33 acres. This is 1 acre. That's 6 acres with only about a 35-foot frontage on Daniel Drive. And you see the way the ditch starts to turn. But if you go on to the next one.
Mr. Daniel, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is another business item, so typically we will ask for staff's recommendation. Except this is a settlement litigation, so will we just turn things over to the commissioner? Okay, thank you, John. Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so this has been going on for quite some time. We did, originally a convenience store, as you know, was submitted for this. And in hearing from the neighbors, they wanted to keep it residential. It does border another RM12, and I guess that's why the plan you see before us. Since this is a settlement of litigation, it's kind of different. But we, after the last hearing, when it came before us, we did meet with the neighbors, that most of who spoke today, and some additional ones, on July 9th. And then last Thursday, they met with Carl Carver, who I'm going to call up in a minute. I just wanted to give some history. So the request was to reduce the density and have full access on Atlanta Road. So the applicant submitted a new site plan, and they do have full access on Atlanta Road. They did take out 1 unit, and they're also still requesting a write-in only off of Atlanta Road, which means anyone coming to this site would have access from Atlanta Road, turning left onto Daniel or right onto Daniel, as they do now, but they would only be able to turn right into this complex and not be able to come out that way and go right out on Daniel through the neighborhood below. So we were, I think, there's been concessions made to the neighbors' concerns with respect to the full access and reducing it by 1 unit. So now we're at 10 units per acre, and it is, just over an acre, so it is small. And I know that there were, from the meeting we had with the neighbors pertaining to this case, there were also concerns about existing stormwater management concerns that exist now without with or without this development. And the underground detention proposed for this development, although it's not really a set plan to discuss at this hearing, it will have to go through plan review and meet all the county standards with regard to that. But I'd like to call Carl Carver up and then Amy Diaz from DOT. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Carl Carver, Cobb County Stormwater.
Thank you for your assistance and also for meeting with the neighbors last Thursday. So can you tell us with the issues that you saw with flooding or drainage that currently exist, how this will impact that or possibly improve that?
Well, the applicant will when he files for his land disturbance permit, will have to prove that he's not making the conditions of the roadside drainage ditch any worse than it is today.
Right.
We know it's
I'm sorry.
got limited capacity now, so it's going to be required, or the stipulations that we had during the convenience store rezoning, we had over-detention requirements. And so I'd like to make sure that that over-detention is still required upon this development. It will be underground, and they will discharge into that ditch. That meets the requirements. Unfortunately, these old subdivisions don't have infrastructure. Like the gentleman said, the infrastructure is the roadside ditch and their driveways. As a part of their land disturbance permit, they have to evaluate that ditch, the roadside, the driveway pipes, and the downstream pipe that they showed in the picture, down to that point. It's required for them to provide an analysis of the downstream conditions. We will have to carefully determine if the engineer is calculating the existing runoff properly before they put their proposed runoff into the ditch.
And that will be done at plan review?
That's correct.
Okay. So do you have comments on this other business item to that effect?
My only comment is that the stormwater comments from the original rezoning be attached to this other business.
Okay. And that was Z23 of 2020?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, were there any issues that could be remedied from the existing conditions that aren't impacted here with this zoning from your visit last Thursday? Was there anything the county can do, or?
It's difficult. Once you, it would be an expensive adventure to add curb and gutter. Once you start adding curb and gutter, you got to add drainage structures and a lot of pipe. So those kinds of things could be looked at, but that would probably cause an impact further downstream. You're just going to push the water downstream faster with that type of design.
So are they not required to do curb and gutter on the Daniel Road side?
On this development, they are. Yeah.
Up in the frontage of
But
their
the
boundary.
subdivision has no curb and gutter now. So there is no storm drain infrastructure except for the cross drain that's further down on Daniel. The roadside ditches is what's providing stormwater infrastructure. And the problem with those is the capacity.
Okay. So when they go through plan review, that'll have to be addressed, and they'll have to make it better than what it is now or improve it for this development.
Improving it will prove to be very difficult without improving the whole road and infrastructure of the road. They will have to show a reduction in runoff from this site and over-detaining so that this site is not providing an impact over and above what's existing today.
Mhm.
Now,
But that will have to be done at their expense, correct?
that will be part of their underground system,
Mhm.
yes.
So with your comments and making sure that happens in plan review, that's where we are.
That's the best we can do, unless the county wanted to go look at a project to improve that road or require the developer to improve that road down to that point. But it eventually dumps out into the backyard of one of the residents.
Okay, so, well, I'm just saying if they're required to make it better or improve it,
They're not necessarily required to make it better, they're required not to make it any worse.
so what will they need to do to do that?
They'll have to show some runoff reduction and over detention.
Okay. And they have to add curb and gutter on
Along
their
the
frontage.
Their frontage, yes,
Atlanta Road already has it, but they'll have to add it on Daniel.
correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Amy, would you mind coming up?
Amy Diaz, DOT.
Thank you. Right now, there is full access at Daniel onto Atlanta Road, both ways, correct?
When you say right now, I mean, there's nothing on the site right now.
No,
So
but I'm saying on Daniel Drive, going down Daniel Drive or coming out Daniel
Oh, I
Drive
see.
from the neighborhood or another site on Daniel.
the
There's full
intersection,
access there and where this is now full access at Atlanta Road, correct?
right, I believe your question is, yes, Daniel Drive intersection at Atlanta Road is full movement, which I believe
Full
is what you're
access
asking, full
currently.
access, all turning movements.
Okay,
And
so-
the access they're showing on the litigated site plan on Atlanta Road is also full, all movements, full access.
Okay. So, anyone coming north or south or east or west on Atlanta Road can access Daniel Road to the subdivision or cut through to wherever it ends up now.
Correct, that's how the
And
homeowners access their homes. yes.
So with the right turn in onto the property in question, right in only, that will just be directed to the people that would be living here if this is approved.
Correct.
So when they come out, they have to access Atlanta Road. They can't come out and turn right on Daniel to go down to the neighborhoods.
Correct, not unless they're making illegal movements, and as mentioned, we'll do whatever physical barriers we can in the amount of room we
Right.
have.
Yeah, we've had this at other subdivisions where we make it a right out only or no left turn in only, things like that. Okay. Anything else?
The spacing for either intersection is not ideal. It won't be up to our standards, but we understand this is a litigated case. Having it be entrance only at least eliminates the possibility of a sight distance issue from the curve as you go into Daniel. Coming out left might have been, going back toward Atlanta Road, might have been problematic. So where we would like to see just one entrance and exit for this subdivision, the entrance only is basically the least offensive on Daniels Drive, if you're going to have an entrance there at all.
Okay. Thank you. Well, oh, wait, Kelly has a question for you. I'm sorry. I didn't see you over there. Waving, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you.
I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Gamble.
Yes.
Hi, Amy, thank you. So is there a need for the write-in only off of McDaniel? Or, I'm sorry,
From a
Daniel.
DOT's perspective, no. Basically, any movement that's going to be served by that would be served by the driveway on Atlanta Road. So the only people that really might use that write-in, I would say, would be the bottom two lots entering, if they're coming from northbound Atlanta Road into the subdivision, they may turn at Daniel and then go right in, rather than going up a little bit further and going in the development driveway. But that development driveway would serve the whole development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Burrell, just so you know, when the time comes, I have more comments regarding that.
What do you mean with the
Thank you.
Oh,
We can
okay.
just direct the comments to the chair. Thank you.
Okay. So, the full access at Atlanta Road, doesn't that meet site distance?
It does meet site distance as far as I'm aware, and of course, they'll have to confirm that as part of plan review.
Right.
But, because the Atlanta Road through there is very straight, I don't believe there's any obstructions that you have to worry about. It does not, I believe, does not quite make the 100-foot curb line to curb line spacing from Daniel Street to the driveway. That's something that we'll give them the comment and plan review and see if that can be adjusted any further north.
Okay.
But there is not a way to put a driveway on Daniel based on their site plan that is 100 feet away from the intersection.
Okay, and the left, there is a left turn lane to go on Daniel from Atlanta Road.
Correct, there's a two-way left turn lane through that area.
Okay. That's all I had is.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheffield, did you have any questions?
Just a quick question, Amy, if you can confirm that there is not a stoplight at the intersection of Atlanta Road and Daniel?
There is not, and it
Okay.
has been studied for one in the past and has not warranted, so we're not anticipating one.
Okay, thank you.
So an addition of 11 units isn't going to put it over the edge to be warranted?
Correct.
Okay.
Residential developments, even of much larger size, typically don't have the sustained traffic necessary for a traffic signal.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner?
My concern is, and while it's not part of consideration of what we're looking at today, is the parcel that sits behind this. I'm not sure how deep this goes and how many acres it is, but the site plan as it's set up right now is going to be setting up for interparcel access to assess this whole parcel. So if this is developed out, and I'm going to only assume that it would be done at the RM12 because that's what the front half is being done, how would that impact traffic and would that then warrant a light?
Again, residential developments don't tend to have the sustained traffic, like 8-hour or 4-hour traffic that they need for a light. What it would definitely do, though, is we would need to have a deceleration lane on Atlanta Road at their driveway. There's already a two-way left turn lane, so they wouldn't have to put a left turn lane in. But if they're having significantly more traffic turn right in off Atlanta Road, we would want to get them out of the way of through traffic on Atlanta Road.
And actually, we don't know what's going there. And across the street is City of Smyrna, so that'll be even more dense. But, and I don't know if that would go to the ditch stormwater or not, the City of Smyrna. So, I mean, that may be our way to get all this taken care of when the other two properties come in for zoning, to use the same water and sewer system. But, I mean,
Yeah,
that's not what we're here, I can't comment, I mean, I can't.
We don't have any
I can't
details
say
of where
anything
they
about
would
that.
do their connection,
Yeah,
yes.
and we have no idea what's coming in.
Correct.
Okay, can the applicant come back up?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sands, this is very difficult because it is a settlement of litigation, and you have made some great concessions with the neighbors. And I think going above and beyond and removing the write-in only at Daniel, is that something you could consider?
We think that now that this is a residential community, it's compatible, but if it's really a big issue, and as someone said earlier, I think he got the point, we'll have no access on Daniel. Full access turning movements on Atlanta.
Thank you. You just made everybody happy, I think.
Let me talk about the stormwater management. Carl did a good job. You may or may not know, there's a new law that went into effect on January the 1 where property owners or developers are required to reduce runoff, not just see that things don't get worse, but actually reduce runoff. So he's got that law, and also with respect to stormwater management, I'm not sure what percentage he wants us to over-detain, but in plan review, you'll do what you're required to do based upon the calculations of the site. So it will be an improvement, and we will not make it worse. And the state law now has adopted that we have to make it better. We have to reduce runoff from this. Have to. Where before it was just manage it, lengthen it, make it less intense.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate your assistance on this. Okay, with that, I'm ready to make a motion. I make a motion that we approve other business item 33, settlement of litigation with the revised site plan. When was that submitted? July. Revised site plan submitted July 13th. 13th, I'm sorry. And with one change of no access on Daniel Drive. Y'all aren't clapping. And also stormwater management comments from the original zoning case Z23 of 2020. And other staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I just wanted to make some acknowledgments that this is not an easy zoning. The prior zoning was for residential single-family on there originally, in addition to the RM12. The future land use map, however, had CRC, which is a very intense commercial zoning category. So the applicant, in putting forward a NAC, is moderating the future land use intent, which was there for that property. So going from a single-family, low-density residential use to increasing that density for residential is still a lot less intense than having very intense commercial, which would have brought more traffic and activity into the area, could have brought more stormwater issues into the area. It's not perfect. After this meeting, I'll talk to the commissioner and stormwater about looking at this entire area, because it is an older area without adequate stormwater infrastructure. I don't know if there's anything within our water program or our SPLOST that we can do, but at least like for us to take a look at it, because the pictures that you showed us are true issues that you're dealing with today, and I think those are worth addressing. But I do commend the commissioner for considering this moderated use from the gas station that was proposed, which again was a moderated intensity from what could be proposed under a CRC. So I'm inclined to support you today and appreciate your work in working with the community, and again, appreciate the community's level of diligence and your care and concern for your community. With that, we have a A motion, a second. Any additional discussion? We'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, Madam Chair and Board, the next case is other business item number 36 of 2021, which is to consider a reduction of minimum public road frontage for April Ingram from 75 feet to 0 feet for lots 1 and 2. The property is located off a private easement on the south side of Pebblebrook Road in land lot 466 of the 17th District. By way of background, the Board of Commissioners does consider all reductions to minimum public road frontage pursuant to a code amendment to Section 134-271-7A, adopted February 27, 2018. The subject property is required to have 75 feet of public road frontage per lot. Proposed lots 1 and 2 both have 0 public road frontage feet. Both tracks are both over the required lot size for R20. They're nearly 30,000 square feet apiece. The property currently has 1 duplex on it that was built in 1934. The applicant will tear down the existing duplex and build 1 new house per lot. Access will be from Pebblebrook Road via the existing asphalt driveway. If approved, all other zoning criteria for the tract will be met. The applicant is present, and there's 1 person here opposed at the beginning of the hearing. All those folks wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Testimony you're about to give before this board regarding this application for the truth, the applicant.
Good afternoon. April Ingram. I made application on behalf of the owner, Jexy Maxwell, who's also here, to help him continue his plat application. We've basically complied with the application requirements and submitted documentation. And of course, you can see the lot is landlocked without this easement, which has been used over the years for access to the existing duplex. So my intention was to come here because we understood we were on the consent agenda. But I see there's someone that's opposed, so I'm going to reserve my time because this is our first time hearing about it, and we would like to hear what the opposition has to say.
Thank you. With that, we'll hear from opposition.
Hello, my name is Sean Coste-Roman. I am the new property owner adjacent, located at 984 Pebblebrook. I did not receive any notification of the application, so my opposition is to get additional information on how this would directly impact my property next door.
Thank you. Is there any additional opposition? All right, with that, we will now turn things over to the zoning manager for staff's recommendation.
Madam Chair and Board, the staff would recommend the board approve the case subject to the Cobb DOT comments contained in the other business packet, the fire department comments contained in the other business packet, and for lots 1 and 2 to have no public road frontage.
Thank you, John. Commissioner?
John, when we spoke, well, the sign is visible. I had an opportunity to visit it on yesterday. So the sign has been there, and you confirmed that the mailers were sent out?
Yes, the file does have all the mailers in it. If the person who spoke in opposition is a brand-new homeowner or homeowner within the last year or so, tax records may not be updated yet to reflect that address. We've had this problem before with that same issue. So if she's brand new, then it may not have been updated when the applicant pulled the records for the mailings.
Okay. May I have the applicant to approach? I'm sorry, the opposition, excuse me. Sean.
Yes.
Can you confirm how long you've been in your residence?
It's actually a vacant lot of land. I just purchased it maybe a month ago. However, I'm in contact with the previous owner, and it's my understanding that they did not receive notification as well.
But you are the current owner?
Correct.
Okay. And you've owned it for 30 days?
Yes.
Okay. So what would be your opposition to this application?
Well, I really haven't seen the plan in terms of how close it butts to my property, what would be the impact. So I have no knowledge, and I was hoping to obtain some understanding of the plans and how it would directly impact me. There's already an easement directly butting up against my property, so if there's a zero frontage, it would definitely put some type of impact of what's existing around my property. Currently, the easement and the area around the property that the owner owns is not kept up properly, so if there's further encroachment adjacent and closer to my property, I need to understand how that would impact it.
Okay. Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to address those concerns or have the zoning manager further explain? Because I don't necessarily want to hold this one because the notices were sent.
This is your case. I do have my opinion, which I would share during comment, but I can't.
Okay, just was wondering what the protocol is. But essentially, the zero frontage is for the public frontage, which is off Pebblebrook Road. And the reason it's being requested at zero is because this parcel is landlocked and it's not adjacent to Pebblebrook Road. Does that make sense? That makes sense. And the easement is an existing easement.
Correct.
That runs from Pebblebrook Road to the parcel, the subject property. Now, with staff recommendations or with DOT recommendation, and I can have Amy to come up to explain the easement portion.
Amy Diaz, DOT.
I had an opportunity to visit the site on yesterday, and I drove the easement, and it appears to be very narrow. But my understanding is that the easement can be widened to touch both sides of the property line. If you can just provide some clarification, particularly for Sean, as it relates to the easement.
So the easement will allow access to this landlocked piece of property. What we did when we reviewed it is we looked at it as a shared drive that would be used to access the two lots in the back. And our comment that's recommended for a stipulation for this case is basically to improve that access, that shared drive, to our residential road standards. Residential driveways have to be at least 12 feet wide and can be a maximum of 20 feet. So yes, it could go from border to border of the easement. And because it is a shared drive with the possibility of an occasional two cars having to pass if they happen to arrive and leave at the same time, I would certainly recommend it be wider rather than narrower.
Right. And actually, that was going to be one of my recommendations, because I'm also concerned, since the proposal is to build two properties there, I'm just concerned that the easement, I just want to ensure that the easement is wide enough to accommodate two vehicles traveling in opposite directions.
The design, as I understand it, we did not look at it as an access road because it's only accessing two pieces of property. We're looking at it as a shared driveway, which doesn't really have two-way traffic per se. You want it to be wide enough that if two vehicles happen to meet, that they can slow down and get around each other.
Right.
But it should not, it does not necessarily have to be wide enough to handle actual two-way traffic the way a commercial two-way traffic drive does.
Sure. No, I understand that, but, again, I just want to make sure that they can safely pass one another and you're not having to wait on Pebblebrook Road for a car to exit before you can enter onto the easement.
And again, we would recommend that the driveway be upgraded in general and that it have the maximum width because of that shared access.
Okay, all right, thank you.
too.
So
Excuse
thinking
me,
I
ma'am.
was just,
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry. Unless the commissioners called you back up, you'll just wait for her to ask you a question.
Okay, Sean, did you have an opportunity to hear Amy's comments? I know that you sidebarred with John.
yes, and I was just given a copy of the plat that actually shows the two houses and the easement there. So with the easement being widening, I just want to get additional email information on the easement in terms of the width and how that will impact my property, in
Okay.
terms of decreasing my property or what type of impact it will have if that's widened.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Well, what I think we should do, although the sign was posted and the correspondence was mailed, I will grant your request in wanting to know more about the application, so we will hold it to the August BOC hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner, can you frame that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I am. I just wanted to
Okay.
pass
Wonderful.
it to you guys in case you had any comments or anything.
No, I'm in
Okay.
support. That's where I
Okay.
was leaning.
Oh, okay. I make a motion that we continue or hold OB 36 to the April BOC meeting.
August?
Oh, I'm sorry, August.
The other A.
You were
It's
looking at
okay.
April.
Yeah, I was looking at April's name, I'm sorry. The August BOC meeting.
Certainly. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner.
Hey, April, if you could, just get Sean's contact information and kind of meet with her and talk to her about this. Thank you. All right. Next item is other business item number 37 of 2021, which is to consider a stipulation and site plan amendment for Gen Georgia 16 LLC regarding rezoning application Z40 of 2020 for property located on the west side of Wesley Chapel Road and at the southern terminus of Sweet Creek Run in land lots 184, 185, and 248, 249 of the 16th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to R15 for a subdivision in 2020. The applicant would like to revise the site plan for the subdivision to add a second access point to meet fire department requirements. The secondary access point will be gated to restrict access for fire truck use only. The plans are attached to the item for your review. If approved, all previous conditions should remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 37? Please raise your hands. Okay, let the record show there's 5 people here in opposition. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Yes. Feel free to go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Kevin Moore here on behalf of the applicant, regrettably, in this other business application. What I'd like to be able to do, though, is present to you the set of circumstances that are very unique and peculiar that have given rise to where we are today. We certainly understand why there's opposition. We're opposed to what's being forced or supposedly being forced upon us as well. But let me take you at least through that history, and that'll be for the benefit of those that are here as well, so perhaps they can understand why we're here. On your site plan, on your screen is a site plan. That was approved as part of a rezoning approval by this county and by this board on September 15th of 2020. So just last September, it was a rezoning along Wesley Chapel Road for 2 tracts that had single ownership. And let me step over there so I can start to show you a couple of things. If you recall, this was a rezoning to R15 for the eastern tract as well as the western tract. This is Wesley Chapel Road here that bifurcates both of these properties. This was approved site plan specific for a total of 42 R15 homes on this portion of the property, which is the western tract. Subsequent to that time, on December 22nd, 2020, this tract was submitted a little bit earlier for land disturbance permit and permitting and review. At that time, per the stipulations and approved stipulations, the district commissioner approved a final site plan that actually mirrored the same site plan here. What you will notice now that we notice is that the approved site plan, which you see here for this western tract, does not contain a second fire emergency access location, and it is exceeding 30 lots. A little bit about that from the history of this case. Again, going back to the date, this was approved September 15th, so in September of 2020. We had staff comments. In those staff comments, as you see every month with every single zoning case, the fire marshal's office has an opportunity to make comments. The comment for this package was no comments. That's because this second fire access requirement, the requirement that comes from what's called Appendix D of the International Fire Code, was put into place and adopted by the state in January of 2020. But our own fire marshal's office, as well as fire marshal offices across this state, were not put on notice, weren't really notified of that change and adoption, and weren't aware for most of 2020 that it had been put into place, which is why it said no comments, which is why until October of 2020, the fire marshal's office then began to place that comment and regulate and insist and mandate that this requirement be met not only on rezoning applications that you as a county were hearing, but on land disturbance permitting and permitting applications that were in process. Before that time, no rezoning application, no permitting, land disturbance permit for residential developments, had those comments or were required to meet that standard until October of last year, when the fire marshal's office began to then put that in the zoning packages and began to make those comments as part of its land disturbance permit review. But here we have a situation where this proposal, this rezoning, was done without any comments from the fire marshal's office, and in fact was done site plan specific to have only access onto Wesley Chapel Road and not to connect to any adjoining streets. Let me put this up, which is the area map so that you can see. Here's the tract we're talking about that was rezoned to R15. You'll note here is Hanover Court, which is a dead-end street, public right-of-way, a public street that dead ends to this property. You also have Foxwood Court, which dead ends to this property here. Those are public streets which dead end to this property. The reason why we had approved this site plan specific and with no access to these adjoining streets was because that was very intentional and part of the conversations. But what was not part of the conversations was that we would have to meet a fire marshal's requirement for a second access point. The problem being, we do not have room along Wesley Chapel. This property's frontage is limited, so it does not allow for a secondary access even on the property's frontage. Now I want to show you what's been submitted for purposes of the discussion. This would be the revised plan that shows connection to a public street. That connection, however, would be fire access only, gated and minimized to the greatest extent possible, but it does open that up for a fire access only. Certainly from our standpoint, we do not want to do that, not one bit. Not only because of the discussions and commitments that have been made, but because with this plan, having to put that access in, this plan drops from the approved 42 lots to 41 lots. We lose a lot, which is a great deal of money for this subdivision. I can assure you the loss of that lot is well in excess of several $100,000. Just the one loss of that lot plus the profit to have been made off the sale of these homes. That's what's lost for us in this situation and by this applicant, given what's occurred to get to us to this point. Unfortunately, we've had requested a waiver given these very, very unique circumstances from the fire marshal's office, and that has not occurred, despite the fact that the district commissioner signed off on a final site plan, approving a final site plan, upholding the stipulations and conditions, and upholding the approval that was given by this board in September. The fire marshal's office refuses to sign off on the permitting plans. And I'll let the fire marshal speak for the fire marshal, and I'll let the county attorney speak for the county attorney, but be that as it may, we're forced in a situation where we cannot move forward without there being something done as it stands. Our preference would be that this board determine that these stipulations in the site plan approved last September should be upheld and allow this to move forward. Alternatively, the best option for us, and the only one we're willing to accept at this point, is to simply make the connection. That connection would be a fire access, limited gate only for a fire and emergency access. It's not a full access, only at the point that we've shown here on this site plan. The only other option under the code and regulations would be to sprinkle these homes. That is unacceptable to this owner and applicant now due to the cost of that. The cost of sprinkling 5,000 plus square foot homes, if you recall, this is going to be a higher end subdivision. The cost of sprinkling that type of home far exceeds the cost of the loss of one lot. And we think that those costs should not be borne by this applicant under these circumstances. They're willing to accept a more minimal cost of the loss of a house and a lot, and you know how much developers fight for every last unit here, but the excess cost for sprinkling 5,000 square foot homes cannot be borne by them, and we believe the claim would be ripe for them and successful for them if that was the outcome. So again, we don't want to be here. We would love for this board to simply determine that this plan can go forward as approved and exempt from this requirement under these highly unique circumstances. Absent that decision from the board, the only acceptable alternative from our standpoint is to allow the minimal connection that needs to be made here that will comply with the fire safety requirements that the fire marshal has now imposed on this project. With that, I'm here to answer any questions. Mr. Mike Busher, principal of the applicant, is here as well and can answer any questions, and we respectfully request your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you yielding the balance of your time? You have a minute, 11?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there's no one else here to speak in favor of, okay, we do have someone else.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In favor or in opposition?
I am in favor, but I have a comment with regard to what has happened. My name is Jill Flam. I'm with East Cobb Civic Association and was also case manager for Z40. And while we still believe that this is a very good fit for this area with this site plan, what I'm here to express is our frustration when we don't have up-to-date staff comments on zonings. Obviously, we didn't have it on this one, but there are other instances that we do not know if there's a revised site plan, if all of staff has seen it, and how their comments have changed. And obviously, this goes in with our negotiations with the neighborhoods and as well as with our ultimate recommendations. So it's, like I said, we're up here expressing the same type of frustration as the applicant, but we do believe that this other business item should be approved, but like the applicant would prefer it with the original site plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that desires to speak in favor of this application? Okay. All right, opposition?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Catherine Comer from Raintree Forest. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you.
Yes.
I am here with our Raintree Forest president and other community members. Raintree Forest was established 40 years ago. It is a peaceful, beautiful, secure neighborhood. I'm representing over 100 homes. The developer presented a plan in September of 2020 that was in violation of a safety ordinance that had been in effect since January of 2020. We are in opposition of this plan to create an access road next to our children's play area and bus stop. It's a dangerous plan. Our neighborhood does not have sidewalks. There is no light onto Sandy Plains. A death has occurred at this intersection. Our streets are hilly and winding. If you wouldn't mind progressing to the next slide, thank you. Okay. The residents would rather this road not be built. Will this really be an emergency access? We're fearful that this will become permanent access. We believe there are other solutions. If you look at the map, and I'll show you it in just a second, they could take another home out and they could go onto Sweat Creek, and that would affect less homes. I'll show you in just a minute. So would rather that this not be built. We really would like to know who would have the key to this gate. We have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Optional solutions would be a Sweat Creek entrance or the fire code approved residential sprinkler system. This will affect our property values as well because it'll be a road right next to our playground, our play area. In the past 4 months, we've sold 4 homes in Raintree Forest. Each home was over $500,000. One of the selling points for our neighborhood is that it's beautiful, it's secure. Children play in our streets, children go sledding in our streets. It's beautiful and secure. Having a road, and not only that, the road will be above our play area. So there's going to be, and they're going to remove all of those established trees, so there'll be problems with erosion and flooding. This will impact our property values. So yes, I hope that you will tell them to put the residential sprinkling systems in all of the homes. I think there are other options. If you would mind progressing to the next slide, please. This is just regarding prior notifications. Could you progress to the next slide, please? Okay, so this was what Attorney Moore just showed. This was what was approved. Again, there was tremendous opposition to that back in 2020. Could you progress to the next slide? Oh, sorry, next one, okay. The residents, again, would rather not have this road. It's adjacent to the neighborhood swimming pool. Access to the proposed road requires transiting the entire neighborhood. There are no sidewalks, leaving our children exposed to increased traffic. And if you just go to the next slide, cross my heart, that was not staged. Thursday night when I walked down to the pool, there were 3 kids riding their bikes in the neighborhood. It is a beautiful, safe neighborhood. Please keep it that way. Could you go to the next slide, please? As I mentioned, our pool area are below this road, the pool and the play area. There's a potential for costly flooding and erosion when the tree buffer is removed. This area is full of established trees. This is a 50-acre property that they're developing that slopes down into wetlands. When those and it slopes down, the map is, it doesn't actually represent the slope. There's going to be erosion and flooding, and how will we be compensated for that? Transiting the neighborhood through winding, hilly streets without sidewalks. Our pool area and playground are safe and beautiful. People come from other neighborhoods and they walk in our neighborhood because it's so safe, and they tell me that. I walk in the neighborhood every single day. I see kids playing in the neighborhood, sledding. It's beautiful. That's so important for the health of the community. As I said, this will alter our property values. All properties will be affected. Again, they say that it'll be gated. We're fearful this will become a permanent access road, and that safety is very important. We don't have sidewalks. As you well know, there was a child killed in East Cobb last year riding his bicycle in a neighborhood. Thank you. If you could progress to the next slide. How can we have assurances from this body that the proposed limited access road will be gated at all times? We're concerned that this new development is going to affect our sewage lines, our water lines, and then we're also fearful that there'll be intrusion. Could you kindly go to the next slide? Again, an optional solution would be Sweat Creek or Lock Highland. It's closer to the new development, and the best solution of all would be for this new development to put in sprinkling in each of the homes. I'm sorry, I'm looking for, is it possible for you to put that up there? So this is West, oh, that's great, I love it. Thank you. So this is Wesley Chapel, okay? And Attorney Moore mentioned removing one lot. Well, he could remove one lot here and then have a road right there. That neighborhood has sidewalks. That neighborhood has less homes, and it would be safer and less people would be affected. And the emergency vehicles would not have to access the whole area. The other thing that I would like to point out, if you look at a topographic of that whole area, there's a school a little ways down, and they have 2 entrances. So I disagree with Attorney Moore. I think there's ample room here for an entrance and an exit. Again, I'm not an architect or an attorney, so it's just my opinion. I would just like to close. I'm not sure if anybody else would want some time. I think we still have time. I sincerely appreciate your time and reflection on this matter. I think the health and safety of the residents of Raintree Forest is at stake here, and I sincerely appreciate your considering that. Excuse me.
Thank you. My name is Carrie Flading. I live actually next to the house that this is directly impacted with. Our children are outside all the time. Every single house has kids, and we don't worry that they're going to get hit by a car. The fact that they want to put a road, even if it's for an emergency vehicle, right next to the pool. There's a pool, and that's where 10 kids go stand for the bus stop every morning. What are they going to do? They're not paying attention. They're children. And we should be able to let our 3rd grader walk to the bus and not worry. And even the middle school kids, they have to walk to the bus, past this street, down another street. There's cars parked out in the middle of the street. It's unbelievable that they think that it's not going to impact our neighborhood and our children and the safety of our children. I'm not worried about how much money they're going to make off a house. I'm worried about my child walking to the bus stop and getting hit. It's not fair. I'm not worried that they're losing money on a house. We're going to lose a kid or a pet. It needs to be understood that it truly is going to impact our neighborhood. Not to mention, how are they going to get in? The Sandy Plains exit, my kids can't even drive out and fear that they're not going to get hit. I have drivers. It's dangerous. The whole thing is dangerous. There's other options. Put sprinklers in the system, in the houses. We're sorry that it's going to cost you money, but it's just what it is. It needs to. This can't happen. Please let it not happen. There's an additional 2 minutes.
Well, another big, huge concern.
Ma'am, can you state
I'm
your
sorry,
name, please?
what?
May you state your name, please?
Oh, I'm Susie Connell.
Thank you.
I'm actually the HOA president. Lived in the neighborhood for 31 years. Raised 8 children there. We are really concerned about the consequences of that road being developed and entering another neighborhood that has access to Wesley Chapel Road. Our neighborhood right now is very secure, and if in the future someone decides that, well, Wesley Chapel's getting too busy, we need to open up that county road for access to Sandy Plains, to your neighborhood, through our neighborhood, how are we going to stop that? So we're just really worried about who's going to maintain the lock on the gate. The gate itself is going to invite kids to wander through our neighborhood who don't belong in our neighborhood. Right now, our pool and our tennis court and our playground are very secure, and we don't want to compromise that. So we would really like for you to take the developer's recommendation and not have to have this access road, especially through our neighborhood.
Thank you. You have 40 seconds left for the last speaker. The time's not running.
Hi, I'm Mike McCoy. I've lived in the subdivision for 40 years, and this is a grave concern because there's no sidewalks. Our children ride bikes, we walk our dogs, our mamas walk our babies in strollers, our kids walk to the school bus every morning, and to have this additional traffic, and it will it will evolve into additional traffic. I think the developer's concerns would be more than offset by the fact that he will be able to market his houses for more. He'll be able to get, the people who buy them will get lower insurance rates, and it will be safer for the first responders because they won't have a big blazing house going and having to hurry to get there. They'll have the sprinkler system to put it out, and it'll be much
Sir,
safer.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
All right, considering we've heard from the applicant and opposition, we'll turn things over to you, John, for staff's recommendation.
Madam Chair and Board, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to the Fire Department comments contained in the other business packet, subject to Exhibit B attached to the other business packet, and the site plan contained in the other business packet marked as Exhibit 1. And then all previous conditions to remain in effect.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Burrow?
Thank you. Before I call our fire marshal up, or deputy chief, whoever's going to speak, when this came through zoning, Z40, it was agreed that there would be no access other than Wesley Chapel. The fact that this new fire law from the state was not included in comments was simply an oversight, and I apologize for that, but you don't need to throw staff under the bus for a mistake. Yeah, a huge mistake, because here we are with a fire access road only in a subdivision where we said there wouldn't be any access. So I understand your concerns. I have driven to your pool and tennis court to see the road and where this would go if it's approved. And it is very tight. And the end of the road where it is, where it dead ends in Raintree Forest, you're right on top of the pool, and the driveway to the pool is right at the property line that is very wooded now. This would be a road for fire access only. There would not be vehicles going through and traffic. I mean, it is a public road now in the subdivision. It's not private. So there is public access now. And I understand the quietness of the neighborhood with no sidewalks and kids riding bikes and all, but that's a danger now for vehicles, not fire access, but vehicles. People coming through the subdivision or going home, it could be an accident currently. So I wish we didn't have to do this at all. And I'm going to call the fire marshal up to give us, we have looked at several options for other roads. I know that Raintree Forest had requested initially that another entrance be on Wesley Chapel. With the requirement, there's a distance that is required to be from the second entrance to be from the first entrance, and it doesn't meet that on Wesley Chapel. Nick or Carl, would y'all like to come up? Sure. Maybe both of you. Also, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but our former fire marshal, Jay Westbrook, was retired at this same time frame when this was approved. And, you know, it was an oversight. It wasn't intentional from staff or from the developer. and I apologize for the oversight. And so can you explain this law from the state?
I will try.
And the distance requirements and what options may be available?
Okay.
Other than a road in Raintree Forest?
Sure. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Nick Daw. I'm the Division Chief of the Cobb County Fire Marshal's Office and also the County Fire Marshal. I want to say thank you to the board for allowing me to come here today and try to explain some of this. I know over the last few months we've had several discussions. We've done some stuff on our end to try to get the message out, but it is, this opportunity I think is going to be good for everybody on the board as well as us to get some of this message out. Let me see here. Oops, sorry. So the easiest way to get into this is showing you this section here, 503.1.1. I'm not going to read the code standard to you, but I do want to point out that that's the 2018 code as adopted in Georgia through the minimum safety standards. And if you go here to the 2019 or the 2021 code, you'll see that there's a highlighted line that was added. It says, the fire apparatus access road shall comply with the requirements of this section and Appendix D of this code. The code is the International Fire Code. It's called the IFC commonly. It's put out there by the International Code Council, and it deals with a lot of stuff related to our fire department access. The ad was added by the State Fire Marshal's Office, so it's not a Cobb County thing. When we found out about it, did start enforcing it. I think we found out about it probably April or May and started the next month. We verified through the State Fire Marshal's Office that it was actually added. The state at that time, I don't know if it was related to COVID, but there was not a state fire marshal for about a year. And the person that was the state fire marshal added this sentence and did not communicate it to anyone within the state. So when we found out about it, it was through development. We did bring it to anybody's attention the second we found out about it. We aren't perfect, and there was, some room for improvement for us here, but that was what's added, and that is the point of controversy for a lot of these smaller developments in Cobb County, because there just isn't a lot of access for a remote secondary access road. The general information related to IFC Appendix D is just that it applies to the apparatus access road, and it puts in a lot of standards related to the driving surface, how it has to support a fire truck with water that's 75,000 pounds, all the conditions and things like that. So I'm just trying to show you that these are the prescriptive requirements. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll see some diagrams that are pretty common to most residential neighborhoods. You'll see that these are where the requirements come from for adding a hydrant. The steep and grade of your neighborhood road has to be less than 10%. The turning radius, 96 feet across is what it takes for us to turn our fire trucks around. You'll see the 120-foot hammerhead, which is up there. These are the common solutions, and this is where these requirements come from as well. I did want to point out a couple of things here that this only applies to, well, pretty much any neighborhood with more than 30 lots on it, or units as it calls it, shall be provided with 2 separate approved fire department access roads. That's what it's saying. You need 2 if you got 30. There's an exception to that. The exception is in green. It says that if you have a multi-use sprinkler system or a residential sprinkler system, you do not need the second access point. That is the most common, solution to not providing a second access road. The remoteness, I've explained this numerous times to people, so I'll just read it. It's going to be calculated by not less than 1/2 of the length of the maximum overall diagonal distance of the property of area being served, measured in a straight line. So you just take the property, the 2 farthest points, halfway between the 2 is how far away the entrance, exit, access route, the 2 of them need to be away from each other. It's called a remoteness calculation. So this is challenging on this project because it is so narrow and also long. So the alternatives, I just put 3 quick ones on here to make it simple. This is the Uponor multi-use residential sprinkler system. This is not the one that everybody thinks of. You can use one that ties to the plumbing in your house, so your toilets, your sinks, any water line in your house can simply connect with a fitting at a head and continue on. It's the same water you'll drink if you drink it from the tap. The second alternative is just wider roads. We've seen this in some other neighborhoods. A 36 feet wide road we would not require the secondary access because it allows for parking on both sides. The third is similar. This is a neighborhood in Mableton. If you can see, I don't know if this has a pointer. You can kind of see it here. In front of these houses, there's parking spaces on both sides, and there's these access roads that go behind the houses as well for the parking. And we've already thrown out there for people that if you add extra parking, so whatever your calculation is for your property, if you gave us 100% more parking than regular, we would then go in and waive the secondary requirement because we feel like it would be adequately provided for parking. People wouldn't park in our access way. So the commentary is published by the International Code Council. It's pretty much just saying why, in regular terms, this was put in there. The second access road is needed in case the primary access road becomes unusable. And they're basically trying to say in their notes that there is a large potential for loss, both life and property. Lack of an access road should not become a factor in such loss. That's what they published to, the international community that uses these standards. Another thing I like to tell people is it's not a road. You can just be a serviceable area that we can drive down. It has to support 75,000 pounds. We do ask for curbs or bands to hold it if you go with gravel. We've seen people use AstroTurf and other things and pavers. Pavers can be challenging though, but it doesn't have to be through traffic. We've seen fences, we've seen gates. Someone earlier asked a question on how do you manage the key. We use something called a Knox lock. It's a key that only we have. They're in our trucks. When we take it out, it makes a record. Only we can unlock that lock, or we'll cut the lock. But someone could always cut the lock. You run the risk of that. But from an access perspective, we carry the Knox key system. And then I did want to point out this as well. Most of you in here would be familiar with the battery, where Truist Park is now. We had a lot of challenges related to access on this. You'll see here in this diagram, from Heritage Court here all the way down to the main entrance is pretty much a fire lane. But they didn't want it to look like a fire lane. So you can see, if anybody's ever been down to the green area, this was constructed particularly with our turning radiuses and our abilities to be able to use this to support any operational access for Comcast and the Omni. And as you'll see down here, people don't feel like they're in a fire lane. It looks like a nice space. It can be designed any way you want. But we do have other options. We try to let some of this play out the way the designer wants to. And in this case, I think we've thrown a couple scenarios out there, and we're still talking through some of them. But in closing, I wanted to say that is, I think, a simple overview of IFC Appendix D. And if anybody had any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Yes, Commissioners. Commissioner Burrell?
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the thorough explanation. Sure. One of the options you mentioned was a 36-foot wide road. Mm-hmm. Is that the main access road or all the roads?
The access way. If we could get a parking space on either side of it, what we've been trying to do, and we say trying because we get communicated from all these different developers different ways, is we'd like to one day have 3 typical design packages that we can encourage people that don't necessarily know how to contact us or ask questions. Our recommendation is always going to be the Uponor multi-use residential sprinkler system. It, to us, makes the most logic. It is, it makes us feel most comfortable. If you don't go that route, which, that's an option as well, we then try to steer people to wider roads and then additional parking. If it's not uncommon, we see neighborhoods that have challenges with, they have two roads, but they're not remote. So, two access ways is better than not having two. And we've worked with them on increased parking ratios to offset the 100% trade-off for the parking. So if you were too close, we could get some additional parking and allow them to be narrower, I guess, or less remote. But all this, and one thing I did have in my notes that I did want to explain to the board and our community is we don't have the authority in the Cobb County Fire Marshal's Office to waive new construction requirements. We are, if we're conceding something, are supposed to take it to the state fire marshal's office to ask for a variance on new construction only. They put forth minimum safety standards. We're supposed to hold those safety standards during our plan reviews. And if something doesn't meet, which it has in numerous projects in Cobb, unique elevator lobby arrangements and stuff, we send it to the state fire marshal's office and ask for a variance. And they will accept it or not. In this case, we did send some of the solutions that we've discussed to the state fire marshal's office, and they did not accept it. So we're kind of back to square one, and we're going to, I'm planning to work to try to, resolve anything we can.
So did we get an official no on the 2 foot
So
either side?
I know Brian Johnson's here. I don't know if they sent it to our legal, if they sent it. I was told via phone call when I got it that it wasn't accepted and they were sending something. Now, I will say it took an unusual amount of time to get even a response back. It felt like 4 to 6 weeks to even have any communication from the state fire marshal's office, but this was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm unaware of the official statement, but I can say that they did tell me.
What is the width of the streets now? Or what's the county standard of the width of the streets?
The development standards, I believe, are 24, and the IFC has minimums of 20. So depending on your circumstance, one of the things that I could show you back here is if you add a hydrant, where's the arrow? Well, in the top right-hand corner here, it encourages, it requires that you widen the road where the hydrant is. If anyone's ever seen what it looks like to respond to an actual event and how many trucks show up, you'll see why 20 feet seems like a lot, but in the actual event of an emergency, it doesn't feel like a lot to the ones operating the equipment.
Okay, and the picture that you showed of the gate and the fence,
Yep. It was very hard to find an image like this, so I did find this off the internet.
well, so on the diagram here, on the site plan, it's just the width of the road. So what else would have to be disturbed besides a 24-foot road?
So, right up here is what you're talking about, I believe.
I'm talking about the proposed
So right
second
here
access.
is what we're talking about. I mean, for our access, a 20-foot access point would be fine, would be sufficient. We've seen people use bollards, we've seen fences, we've seen gates. Numerous things could be put there to enclose the neighborhood, but it would need to open a clear width of 20 feet in the event of an emergency. We would drive up, stop, get our specific key out of our Knox box, access it, open the gate, and continue through.
So is it only fire truck access or police or any emergency, but just fire is my understanding?
Just fire. We're the only ones with the key.
Okay.
And these keys can also be found on most commercial businesses and so forth without the community, so it's the concern of someone, the concern of someone accessing this or having this key, it really isn't, it's a moot point. I mean, we actually require it on all new commercial businesses to have a knock system on the building, so.
And the reason is because we get calls all hours of the night. You know, it can be in the evening, it could be early in the morning, it could be in the middle of the afternoon. We require the Knox lock that fits our lock set. Marietta wouldn't even, their key wouldn't fit. We would have to give them one of our keys for them to be able to access if they were first in. So it's specific to each fire department.
Okay. Legal. Can I call Brian up, or you?
Sure, you can call Brian up. He is most familiar with it. And just one correction.
He met with us with
Brian.
the fire marshal to see.
And also Brian would be able to speak to whether we have or have not actually received something back from the state fire marshal.
Okay, I'm sorry. Whether what?
We received that from the state.
Oh, okay. Thank you, guys. Brian.
Yes, ma'am. Brian Johnson, County Attorney's Office.
We looked at several options and what we could or couldn't do here. One of the questions that came up was the law requires any subdivisions over 30 homes have 2 access points. And we looked at, does that mean all the homes have to be sprinkled, or can it be the amount over the 30? Like, in this case, 12. If there's 42 lots and the requirement is 30, above 30, could we require the applicant to just put sprinklers in the back 12 that are closest to Rain Tree Forest where the access would not be? Could we do that?
I know that question was presented to the fire marshal in our discussions. I don't think we came to a conclusion based upon that would still be some sort of a waiver of the International Fire Code in some capacity, and there would be concerns about trying to determine which houses would be sprinkled and which ones would not, what that number 30 would be, where it would be.
Well, you have access on Wesley Chapel, and based on the diagonal distance and half the requirement, you don't, there's no other access on Wesley Chapel that meets this requirement.
Yes.
So that's not an option. And there were other roads, I think one in Woodbine Station, Hanover, that was looked at. I'm not sure about Swift Creek. And I know that this came about as far as for the applicant and when he was in plan review and is trying to get a land disturbance permit to start the construction. Mr. Moore, can you come up? If we hold this for 30 days, is that an option so that we can look at the other options as opposed to a road at Raintree Forest? And also, I'd like to send another request to the state fire marshal for either something that you agree to and the neighbors can agree to, whether it's 12 sprinkler systems or 36-foot wide roadway. Can we hold this for 30 days till we can, and maybe I can go to the fire marshal if y'all take me? Because I understand the neighbors' concerns. On the other hand, this is just for a fire truck, and you're not going to get, hopefully, the new subdivision, once it's built, is not going to get a call for a fire every day.
Yeah, sure.
But, we have to we have to meet the requirements, the safety requirements and life-saving requirements of the state law.
Can I get that back? Yeah, thanks. Commissioner Burrow, that should be a yes or no answer to your question, but I think it would also be helpful as it relates to those other options. I know you're familiar with some, but not all, and certainly those that are in attendance are not familiar at all with what has already been explored. And that is, the proposal that was made to the state fire marshal was not simply, here are these unique set of circumstances where a board of commissioners, the governing authority of a county, approved a zoning and put in place conditions that prevent us from meeting this second access requirement. And we didn't know, nobody knew about it, the county, us, nobody. So please waive this requirement. Actually, what we sent to the state fire marshal's office in conjunction with Brian Johnson with the county attorney's office, in conjunction with Chief Dawes, who's done, I think, everything he can at this point. We sent a proposal that widened the roadways, put in additional hydrants to offer mitigation to not having that second access. That's the proposal that was made. It wasn't 36 feet wide because this property doesn't have that amount of width to allow for 36-foot wide roads. Very few tracts of land do allow for a 36-foot. Think about it, a 36-foot wide road is really a 62-foot wide right-of-way. Subdivisions have 50 feet of right-of-way. But that's the proposal we sent to the state fire marshal, and the response we got was that was not good enough. So we start to run out of options. Specifically, I know it was raised, and I think they deserve an answer because it's a good question. The question about alternative access points other than this location here where their pool is located. Keeping in mind, again, this is fire access only. This could only be 20 feet wide. We'll put it on whatever surface we can, minimize it to the greatest extent possible that we can. The other two options are Sweat Creek Run, which is this road, public road here, comes off of Wesley Chapel. And the comment was made, well, why not just put in an access somewhere along here and lose a lot? Well, the issue there is the developer of this portion of this subdivision here left a spike strip. So our property does not adjoin the public right-of-way of Sweat Creek Run. There's a spike strip, which is a 10-foot strip of land owned not by us, that is actually adjacent to the right-of-way, not our property. So we cannot connect to that road. We don't adjoin it. That's something folks may not be aware of. So we would not do that. And besides, then you'd have this group here complaining about this very same thing. But I did want to say that had been explored, but we cannot do that. This exit point to the rear, which I believe is Hanover Court, due to the topo there between our property and that Hanover Court, it doesn't work from a I'm going to say elevation reasons at that location. And again, though, all you're doing is then making that connection, and now those neighbors will be here saying the same thing. So we understand that. And look, I don't, we didn't want to be here, but that's where we are. So back to your question about waiting 30 days, I don't know what that does. I don't know of any other option. If there was another option we could go and explore like that, then yes. I mean, we'd always be willing to work. But we've been working at this since January. We went through I met with Chief Dawes back in January to say, even December, to say, that's right, thank you, to say, okay, there's got to be options. Typically, with the fire code and the fire marshal's office, there's alternatives. Well, if you can't meet this, then maybe you can achieve the same level of life safety or same level of protection through another means, or there's got to be some options here. What we discovered is in this situation, those options are not available. And We continue to try to work towards that, continue to work with your county attorney's office, and have been doing that since January with multiple meetings and multiple discussions, including sending up a full package that your county attorney did to the state fire marshal's office with increased costs on us. I mean, this is not we don't have any options, so I don't know that waiting 30 days doesn't leave us with this same situation here. I don't know what else could be achieved from that.
Excuse me, Commissioner. Kevin, can you clarify in that package to the state, what was the width requested and what was the width of the street that's being required?
It was 26. I got it.
I think it was 27, I think. So it was, and that was, I think, one of the technical challenges with it is a parking space is 8 feet wide. So if you were to take the 27, which they were proposing, and subtract 8, it put us below the minimum width of an actual minimum access fire road. So, I'd be happy to try to maybe take a last-ditch effort to try to resolve some more solutions over the next couple of days. I'll commit to doing it very quickly myself. But I do see some of the points that, it wasn't accepted. And I do think some of the arguments would probably change. We're trying to stay some of the neutral on the decision-making for certain solutions, but I will tell you, we were always going to be in favor of the residential sprinklers. That's just with the way that houses are being made out of composite material and plastics and glues, and everyone's house is full of it. That's just a concern for the fire industry as a whole, that the sprinklers are usually our solution. But I will say it's pretty knowing that builders aren't always open to that as much as we are. So we do try to come up with other solutions. If we find a solution on a different project, we would try to bring it forward. Some of this is also new to us, so the solutions to these challenges are new to us as well. So there's really only about 5 that we've figured out, which is the wider roads, the increased parking, the residential sprinklers, and if there's a blend of the two, we would look for a licensed engineer to agree with us. The point of the engineer being to, have the registered license holder that's a practitioner in safety agree with what we agree on to make sure that it's safe. We try not to be the quality filter in the fire marshal's office. We are auditing the design professional's work body, but I'm always happy to continue working on it. But some of the decision on the next step is going to fall to you guys and the applicant.
Chair, if I may, the question was asked regarding the fire marshal response, and it's my understanding from speaking with Mr. Johnson, we have not received a response back at all, and we're not anticipating one. We're not been informed that we have to receive one, and it's kind of where it stands right now.
The answer to your question, though, about the width of the roadways that was proposed. So what was proposed was a roadway that would be 29 feet back of curb to back of curb. And then a portion of it would be, the next section would be 28 feet wide, and then the remainder was 26 feet wide. So all in excess of the minimum of the what's standard, which is 24 feet wide. But beyond, what happens is beyond that, we run out of room as it relates to lot sizes.
Continue. It's okay. This is such a complex matter. I don't want to put us in a position to go back and forth more than the amount of time that we've even had for zoning today, but
sure,
I'll defer to you, Commissioner.
One more comment or question, or just answer to a question, if I could. The idea about sprinkling 12 and then not the 30, the problem is the standard, the requirement says that the alternative is to sprinkle throughout the subdivision, which means, again, it takes away some flexibility. If it didn't say throughout the subdivision, then there might be some flexibility, but
But that could be a request for a variance, if that
it could.
is. So I just have one more question, and then I'll make a
Thank you.
motion. legally. Can we leave this as it is, a no access road and nothing done?
Well, it typically in a life safety issue, board does not do that. I mean, I agree, this is a really unusual set of circumstances because the subdivision directly across the street, which was just a few months ahead of this one, has less than doesn't have the extra access and is over 30. Is that correct, Mr. Moore? You represent that one too? The one that's right across the
So they're
street?
going to have to come back too?
No.
Why not?
Well, it's only for new subdivisions, and that one was moved forward before the recognition of this
No,
issue.
they're both the same time.
They're both the same. The
Right.
C40 was.
But did you
one side
already
was
have
mine and
the-
one side was
that was-
District 2.
It hasn't, we have not brought it forward. It has not been here what has happened is you had
Phase 1 and Phase 2.
well, you had a sale to the developer builder that has occurred here based on the circumstances that were known to us. So there's been an interim step where somebody has gone and spent millions of dollars to acquire a piece of property based on an entitled zone piece of property with an approved site plan, and now is being told something different.
Right. So typically on life safety issues, we don't do that. I mean,
Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion. Yeah.
A fire? Someone from fire, I just had a question regarding hydrants. There was a mention about additional hydrants. Is that an option, and can you explore and kind of explain that a little further?
Yeah, so what I was talking about back here in this detail is, if you can see, you can't see what I'm looking at, but can you see this screen? Oh, okay. In the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a straight line with a notch out, and it says 20 feet and 20 feet. Wherever there's a hydrant, the road width needs to widen because of the operation of using a hydrant. When you turn it on, the hoses get quite heavy and solid, and it's supposed to widen for a 40-foot section in length from where the hydrant is. Does that make sense?
How new is this standard?
I mean, it's been in the standard for, that point is new. I mean, that point is not new. We've always done it that way in Cobb, is my understanding. We're just saying where the road is 20 feet wide, and then a hydrant is added, it widens slightly for a 40-foot run around that hydrant, like that detail in the top right-hand corner.
Okay. Thank you.
I would say at least 10 years.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we hold this to the August meeting and give us some time to look at additional options and work with the applicant and fire marshal, and I'll discuss that with the fire marshal of seeing if we can get some kind of other variance to avoid an additional road.
Second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Board, there is one more thing on the agenda, and that's to amend something previously approved. This item has to deal with Section 25 of the Board of Commissioners Zoning and Land Use Hearing Procedures adopted January 11th, 1994, and last revised October 19th, 2004, which allows any commissioner to amend an action taken at a previous hearing. A second shall be required, and full discussion should be allowed. A majority vote shall be required for adoption of the amendment, and if passed, a second motion will be needed to revise the stipulations. This item is to amend a motion made by the Board of Commissioners for rezoning case Z8 of 2021, as listed in the official minutes of the June 15th, 2021 meeting. The stipulation that needs to be amended in the motion to perfect the record is stipulation number 4, which should have read as follows. Number 4, District Commissioner to approve final elevations, which shall have at least 3 sides of architectural features as specified. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the board to amend that one stipulation.
Thank you. Commissioner Gambrell?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve, to allow amending a previously adopted approval of Z8 of 2021 from June 15th, 2021 BOC zoning hearing minutes attached and made part of these minutes to reflect the district commissioner to approve final elevations which shall have at least 3 sides of architectural features as specified.
All right. I believe that's her motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. John, I see you're looking perplexed. Was that hearing?
Well, I'm just reading here to make sure that we did that correctly, because the way it's a two-step process to amend the motion.
Okay, sure.
The first motion is to allow the amendment of the item, number 1. Correct, Bill? Yes. And then the second motion will be to actually add the condition to the motion. So can we redo that?
All right, Commissioner, if you can provide your motions as was clarified.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to allow amending a previously adopted approval of Z8 2021 from the June 15th, 2021 BOC zoning hearing minutes, which are attached and made part of these minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. All right, if you can provide your second
And then
motion.
I'd like to make a second motion to amend the following zoning stipulation for Z8 2021 from the June 15th, 2021 BOC zoning hearing minutes to read, number 4, the district commissioner to approve final elevations which shall have at least 3 sides of architectural features as specified.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
We are finished, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. 7 minutes after 12. Thank you.
We are adjourned.